Hi everyone, my name is Alexandra Paredas. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and today I'm gonna be talking about making the unknown manageable. First, I wanna start sharing a little bit of my background. I was born and raised in Caracas, Venezuela, where I studied computer science, and I have worked as a software engineer for over 10 years. Currently, I am one of the co-founders of Latinas in Tech NYC, where we are a nonprofit organization that connects, supports, and empowers Latina women in the tech industry. Last but not least, I am also head of engineering at Climate, where we're building an engineering intelligence platform tool for engineering leaders like yourself to help you understand how your team is working together and find opportunities of improvement. So I want to start with a little exercise. It's going to be really easy. I'm going to share a story, and I want you to imagine you are the protagonist of this story. Imagine you are a new engineering manager, a new engineering leader. You are maybe managing a small team of 2 or 3 engineers. You are excited, maybe a little bit nervous, completely normal. You are reading books. You are coming to conferences like this because you want to grow. And the organization you're working on goes through a major organizational change. And there is an opportunity for you to manage a bigger engineering team. Maybe by now you're feeling more overwhelmed because change is hard, but you could also be feeling a little bit excited because there is an opportunity for you to go even further out of your comfort zone and grow even more. Also, the team you will be managing is, you think they are an also engineering team, so you are excited, and you say yes to this opportunity. So your manager calls you to a meeting to kind of talk about what will be this change, this transition, and the things that you are going to be working on. And he says, Ale, your name, replace with your name. I'm super excited that you're here, you're awesome, and I think you have an awesome engineering team, you are doing great, but the last 6 months, we haven't accomplished any of the quarterly goals we're setting out to do, which means that our customers are not getting as much value out of the product as they should be getting, and we want to change all that in the next 90 days. By now, maybe your excitement is like, oh my God, what is happening? And that was totally me on November of last year. I was this new engineering manager with an awesome engineering team. I was so excited to have the opportunity to manage engineers that I respect and admire. One of them is actually here in the audience. Hi. And then, I get this huge challenge and a 90-day deadline. This is really how I was on that meeting. I was like, okay. And today, I'm going to be talking about a framework that I kind of discovered while going through this process that helped me figure out this challenge and that you will be able to use in other situations. So first is 3 phases. First, acknowledging your feelings and emotions, gathering the data, and discussing and executing a plan. So let's get right into it and talk about feelings. This is a section that I spend the most time on because it's actually extremely important. It's very well documented that when we are presented with a situation that we don't fully understand, our body reacts to it immediately, and that's totally fine, right? Because our body thinks we're in danger. You may feel stressed out, fear, anxious. All of those feelings are super valid. There's nothing wrong with it. You are not a bad leader for having those feelings. Actually, you should embrace all of these feelings. You should feel them. But you want to kind of like go deeper into why this is happening. So when I was in this meeting, internally, on my brain, this is exactly what was happening. I don't know where I'm going to start with this situation. But I didn't stay there. I sat down with myself in a room and grabbed a list of things that I was worried about. The list started very generic, oh, I am worried that I'm gonna fail to my team and do a bad job. Well, that's too generic. How do you change that? And then I got really specific into things like, I don't know if I am capable of communicating effectively to my team, how much change we will need to do, and how quickly we need to do it to pull this off in 90 days. So I started writing things down very specific with the goal of being able to find support either within the organization or outside of the organization to kind of fill the gaps on my knowledge or on my experience. So here is when, having, as Sonia was saying, peer mentorship is super important because other humans out there have gone through these challenges and they can guide you or give you resources. So definitely recommend doing that. Then, the funny is that the more you do this and the more you are aware with your own emotions, it's easier to understand what's causing this reaction, and it's easier to control how you react to things. Ideally, we all as humans will be self-aware of these things and do it all the time, but particularly in a position of leadership is very important because your reaction impacts everyone else on your team. So, you're trying a little harder is important. As I said earlier, there are many resources out there. I used two last year that I really, really like, and I want to share with you. No Hard Feelings. It's a super cute book by Liz Fosslien and Molly Westhoffy. It has drawings, it's really funny, and it has very relatable examples that you can use to kind of, know how to frame certain conversations or dynamics in the workplace. So definitely recommend that. And there is a talk by Lara Hogan, Navigating Team Friction, that also touches on feelings and how we all have feelings, and being aware of those feelings is helpful. So I recommend checking that out. Also, Lara is actually speaking today, and she's going to be touching on this topic. So I'm really excited to hear what she has to say. So, okay, now that you are aware of your emotions, and hopefully are figuring out how to, fill on those gaps or things that you're worried about, you can start looking at the data. Okay. So there is quantitative and qualitative data. As engineers, I think we are all very used to using quantitative data. You may think about performance, response times, dashboards. And when I was going through this challenge, I decided to use our own product to see what the quantitative data was saying. Okay. So, I kind of found some things that I thought were interesting points to be aware of and bring into conversations oh, it's taking us longer over time to merge code. That seems something that we want to be aware of. Oh, we're doing a lot of rework over time. Oh, okay, point a pin on that. Oh, we're deploying less over time. That could explain why we are not delivering as much. But all of this is not the full picture, right? This is not giving me an answer to a problem. This is just giving me talking points that I can use later. So when you are, some tips that I find super useful when you are looking at quantitative data, different challenges will offer you different tools, analytics tools that you can use, so you should use them. I like to look at metrics over time, because sometimes you will find certain events that you may want to see if that had an impact on something, so then you can see the trends. And the other thing about qualitative data that I find really useful is we all have biases and we all make assumptions, and that's a completely human behavior, very normal, but bringing in objective data into a conversation helps, kind of fight back those biases and assumptions. So to kind of work on this challenge, that I needed way more than quantitative data. I also needed qualitative data. Because at the end, part of me wanted to really know how everyone else on the team felt about this and what were the challenges that they were having. So I'm going to share some feedback that I got from engineers throughout my one-on-ones. So some people were frustrated that meetings were too long. They didn't find it as useful. There wasn't a clear sense of like what is a priority. When everything is important, nothing is. So that indicated some things. Other engineers felt stuck, and as they weren't growing as much, which is not great to hear as an engineering manager because you are there, right? You are trying to do your best. You want everyone to feel growing and engaged, but you appreciate the feedback. And then, okay. Some people felt frustrated that they had to like redo the work they were doing, which indicated that maybe our process wasn't as flexible as we thought, and we were not learning or incorporating the information or feedback we got from like other departments in the organization sooner. So I gathered as much information as possible and kept all that in mind. But I want to take a small parenthesis to talk about receiving feedback. This is another point where I think being aware of your own emotions is very important. We all know that giving feedback is hard, but receiving feedback can also be hard too. And you may feel that when you're receiving feedback that you need to justify the feedback you're hearing. You may feel defensive, and all of that is normal, very valid emotions, nothing to be worried about. But what you have full control of is how you react to those emotions. And when you are, particularly when you are trying to understand the situation, you want to be as open as possible about the things you are hearing. You want to be receptive and practice active listening. There is no need to justify. There is no need to to be defensive. So keep that in mind when you are receiving feedback. A couple of tips that I find super useful and I want to share with you when gathering qualitative data is using one-on-one conversations. Someone today, Kwasi, is going to be talking about one-on-ones today, so hopefully you stay for that and pay a lot of attention because I strongly believe that one-on-one conversation can be super useful to get candid feedback, to understand things that you may not notice otherwise. So recommend practicing a lot of that. I also really like retros, not only because during retros engineers and product discuss what things are working on and which ones aren't, but also I find it like a cute social experiment almost, where you can see certain dynamics that you may not be aware of, and if there are good dynamics, you can kind of like lean into those, and dynamics that are not as good, you can help solve those situations. So it's kind of like creating as much awareness as possible of how your team is working together. You want to practice a lot of active listening. So I recommend when we are trying to solve a challenge, we usually have like a assumption of what the problem is. And you want to try to leave that aside and gather as much information as possible as if you know nothing. Basically, be open to all of the information you are receiving. And ultimately, I recommend making feedback a habit. So the team that I manage, they are all very nice humans. Sometimes too nice, which means they don't want to say, quote unquote, back feedback, because they don't want to hurt other people's feelings, which is very thoughtful, but it prevents us from understanding what is not really working and how can we be better. So me being aware of the situation and wanting to change the situation, for example, I will talk on one-on-ones about feedback, like, so that happened. Did you try giving feedback about it? Should we practice it so you can get feedback next time? Just to try to make it normal. I also gave a lunch and learn at the company on a framework that I like to use when giving feedback. So my intention was to make feedback as normal as possible, so people will tell me, as they got comfortable with exactly what they were thinking and the issues they were having, because that will give me the ability to help and support when I need it. So, now you have a understanding of the situation, you have all of the data, and you may be feeling more comfortable with discussing and executing a solution. Maybe too comfortable because, we're all engineers, and it's very tempting to try to solve the problem by ourselves, right? Our whole career, that's what we did. We got presented with a problem, and then we code, we push some code, and boom, the problem is solved. But no, that is not longer your role. Your role is to be there, to lead everyone else in an agreement to a solution. So when you are, kind of like ready to start like executing on a solution, you wanna have much conversations with everyone involved on the problem you're having. They can be one-on-ones, team meetings, probably all of the above, depending on the challenge you're trying to solve. You may need to involve other departments on your, organization. And you want to be there to kind of like lead those discussions and get as much input. Something that I also recommend, and where having peers outside the organization is very useful, is seeking feedback from someone that has an outside perspective. I think especially when we are on a startup, we try to move very fast. We are very focused on like one thing, and that means that our plans may have blind spots. And for someone on the outside, they are easy to spot. So get some feedback from the outside and try. And then the last step is getting everyone to commit to a plan, which is obviously not easy. Everyone has different opinions, sometimes contrary opinions. So a lot of your role will be to lead those conversations to get an agreement and get everyone to commit to a plan. And that's when it's very useful to have one-on-ones with your engineers to get buy-in, so they are not surprised with a sudden change. They kind of like are aware of what's going on. They have all the context, and it's easier to get that commitment. So for us, our challenge was that our team structure and our iteration process were not appropriate for the stage of our startup anymore. They needed change, which it was a lot of change actually to do in 90 days. Totally fine, but that meant that we needed to go through this process kind of like rather quickly and being very transparent to get as much buy-in as possible. I try to involve everyone that will be touched by, for example, changing the iteration process. So product management, design, they were all part of this conversation. And I try to be as candid as possible in the fact that this was a meaningful change. It was going to be a little bit painful, but hopefully, by working all together, we will end up in a better place. And on this phase, kind of like I want to share some tips on what can you do when you are trying to like execute on this plan. So I mentioned metrics earlier, and you want to, while you are implementing these changes, you want to keep an eye on those metrics and see if they are changing in the direction you expect. And if they are not, then you can have a conversation about that, or kind of like try to figure out what's going on. Proactively seek feedback. As engineers, I think we all know that getting the solution to a problem right the first time is very hard. And if this problem involves many humans, it's even harder. So I think it's completely okay to be honest with your team and say, hey, this is the situation we have. This is what we're trying to fix. This is the goal. And we're going to try this solution. And if it doesn't work and it's not working out, please let me know so we can change it and make it better. So creating that transparency and environment of safety makes it easier for people to be like, I don't think this is working for anyone. And as I was saying, iterating is super important. When you come up with a solution, you're often making the best decision you have with the information you have at the time, but then you start learning new information and you want to incorporate that as soon as possible so everything can be better, hopefully less painful as you move forward. So we work on this like change phase for about 3 or 4 weeks out of those 90 days. Then, we got into a good rhythm. We were making some tweaks throughout the 90 days because, getting things right on the first try is hard. But at the end of those 90 days, we had increased our deployment rate by 50%. We were, accomplishing business value. Our customers were very happy, which obviously is very, motivating to receive good feedback from customers. So everyone is really excited, and I'm proud that we were able to navigate off that. And I'm also proud of myself because if you remember, 90 days before that, I was pretty much very overwhelmed. I didn't know what am I supposed to do. And by the end of this process, I had a framework that I know I can use not only in this situation, but in any challenge that comes going forward, which is extremely powerful because I realized you don't need to have all the answers as a leader. You just need to know how to navigate those situations with your team. So my hope for you when you go back to your job on Monday is that you remember that there are tools out there for you to figure out all of the unknowns that you're going to have, and you don't need to have all of the answers. So just a reminder, 3 easy steps: acknowledge your feelings, so you know what are the things that you are worried about, your gaps. Gather as much data as possible, qualitative and quantitative data. This will help you prepare yourself better, and help your team better lead discussions to come up with a plan. And ultimately, last step, communicate your plan and discuss with your team a plan, communicate it, and proactively iterate as you learn new information. I want to close by saying that being a leader is very overwhelming sometimes. That's completely normal. There is a lot of uncertainty, unknowns, surprises. But I think that the fact that you're here, excited, trying to learn and get as much information, it's like you are 3 steps ahead of the situation. So you got this.